The dust on Virith, for always hung in the air like something half alive, drifting between the rust-red buildings and the half-collapsed market stalls. Even the wind here felt tired. Most days passed in the same rhythm. Merchants arguing, cargo droids whining, and Empire patrols stomping around with that casual arrogance of people who believed nothing could touch them. But today, the air had a tension to it. Thin, stretched, waiting. A small crowd gathered near the plaza, whispering urgently among themselves. On the ground lay the still body of a human woman, her brown hair dusted with red sand, her clothing torn from the struggle she clearly had never deserved. Empire soldiers stood over her, helmets glossy and emotionless. They argued about whose fault the incident would be on the report. A few aliens watched from behind crates, their skin darkening with fear. Everyone knew humans were strange, too adaptable, too calm, too unpredictable. Killing one felt like poking something dangerous with a stick. The lieutenant responsible for the execution paced in short, irritated lines. "This planet is crawling with these primitive mammals," he muttered, kicking a small stone aside. "One less won't matter." One of the younger soldiers cleared his throat. "Sir, you know the rumors about humans and grief." "Rumors are for the superstitious," the lieutenant snapped. "Humans are weak. Emotional. They break." The soldier swallowed but said nothing more. The crowd shifted suddenly. A figure walked into the plaza, hands in the pockets of a dusty jacket, steps slow and easy, as though he'd just strolled out of a late-night diner back on Earth. Marcus Hale, 34, quiet, polite, the kind of man who fixed neighbors' fences before they asked, stopped just outside the circle of bodies and soldiers. His eyes found her. He stopped breathing for a single second. Just one. Then he inhaled slowly, like someone adjusting to unexpected news. He spoke with a gentleness that made every alien flinch. "Hi," he said softly, almost apologetically. "Anyone want to explain why my wife is lying on the ground?" Several soldiers instinctively stepped back. The lieutenant didn't. He straightened his shoulders as if sensing an opportunity to prove something. This human violated curfew and... No, Marcus' voice didn't rise. It didn't even sharpen. But something inside it shifted, a faint scrape like a blade being unsheathed far away. "She doesn't violate anything. She follows rules better than I do." The lieutenant's tone grew defensive. "She resisted inspection." "Did she now?" Marcus crouched beside the body, touching her hand with infinite care. He brushed a bit of sand from her cheek. His face didn't twist with grief or rage, just a quiet, unreadable stillness. "She bruises easily," he murmured. "Always hated that." The young soldier tried to interject. "Sir, she fought back." Marcus looked up. His eyes didn't look angry. They looked focused. Like the world had shrunk to a single point. "I've known her for 10 years, he said. "She doesn't fight unless someone gives her a reason. So tell me, exactly what did you give her?" The lieutenant scoffed. "Humans are impulsive. Unstable. She attacked my patrol, so I executed standard protocol." Marcus nodded slowly, as if processing a minor inconvenience, like a grocery store being out of milk. "Protocol," he repeated. "Interesting word." He stood, brushing dust from his knees. His hands slipped back into his jacket pockets. His posture relaxed. He almost looked friendly. "Okay," he said gently. "I'd love to sort this out peacefully. Really would. So before this goes somewhere none of us want, I'll ask one more time. What happened to my wife?" The lieutenant smirked. "I just told you. And if you want to join her." The words barely left his mouth before the air changed. Not visibly. Not loudly. It was the silence. A strange, heavy stillness, like the world bracing itself. Aliens stepped back without meaning to. Even the wind quieted. Marcus blinked once, slowly, like someone marking a time code. "All right," he whispered. "That's enough." He walked toward the soldiers, not fast, not tense, just walking. A friendly stroll. A neighbor bringing over cookies. It made it worse. Infinitely worse. 2 soldiers raised their rifles. He didn't flinch. didn't alter his pace, just smiled mildly and said, "Careful. You might hurt someone." The rifles trembled. "Human male approaching, sir." One soldier cried. "He's unarmed," the lieutenant barked. "Stand your ground." Marcus tilted his head. "Unarmed? That's a matter of perspective." The lieutenant frowned. "What's that supposed to?" A sharp metallic crack echoed across the plaza. The rifle of the nearest soldier fell apart, cleanly sliced, as if cut by invisible precision. Gasps erupted as glowing fragments clattered to the ground. Marcus hadn't moved. His hands still rested casually in his pockets. The young soldier stumbled backward. "Sir, he didn't touch it." Marcus shrugged lightly. "Physics is fun. You should try learning some." The lieutenant's confidence fractured. What are you?" "A husband," Marcus replied. He stepped closer. "And a very patient man. Most days." The lieutenant's hand hovered over his holster, unsure. Marcus' voice softened further, so gentle it chilled the air. "You had so many choices. You could have questioned her, helped her, ignored her. Anything." He stopped just feet away. "But you killed her." "I followed protocol," the lieutenant hissed, though his voice shook. "Right," Marcus said. "Well, here's mine." Every civilian watching silently backed away. A few whispered prayers in languages Marcus didn't know. Someone muttered, "Humans don't break. They bend everything else." The lieutenant tried to mask his fear with arrogance. "Whatever threat you think you pose." "I don't think," Marcus cut in, still soft, still terrifyingly polite. "I calculate." For a moment, no one moved. The dead woman lay between them like a fragile, broken line dividing what was and what would be. Marcus lifted his gaze toward the Empire garrison in the distance, an ominous structure marked with blue lights and heavy weapons. The kind of place no citizen approached willingly. He smiled faintly, but the warmth didn't reach his eyes. "I'm going to walk up there," he said, nodding toward the garrison. "And we're going to have a grown-up conversation about consequences." The lieutenant swallowed. "If you step 1 foot inside, our full regiment will annihilate you." Marcus' polite smile widened by a millimeter. "See, that's the spirit. I love honesty." He turned his back on them, calm as a Sunday morning, and began walking toward the garrison, boots crunching softly against the sand. Behind him, a terrified alien whispered the words no one ever wanted to say aloud. "He's not angry because they killed a human woman." A trembling pause. "He's angry because they killed his." The garrison loomed over the colony like a concrete fist, angular and cold, pulsing with the faint blue hum of Empire tech. From a distance, Marcus looked like a man out for an evening stroll. Up close, something in his posture made soldiers along the perimeter freeze. He didn't walk like prey. He walked like someone who'd already seen the ending of the story, and was simply stepping through the pages. 2 guards raised their rifles. "Human, halt." Marcus did, with the easy obedience of a cooperative tourist. "Sure thing," he said pleasantly. "I hate interrupting people when they're working." The guards exchanged a nervous glance, unsure why being agreed with felt threatening. Marcus' eyes drifted past them, noting their stance, the tremor in their trigger fingers, the half-second delay between their breaths. He smiled softly, as though admiring scenery. "I need to speak to whoever's in charge," he said. "Preferably someone who enjoys conversation, and doesn't execute civilians for sport." "No entry without clearance," the guard insisted, voice cracking. Marcus nodded. "That's fair. But here's the thing, I'm not asking for entry." Before confusion could settle, a sudden metallic thud echoed overhead. One of the surveillance drones, hovering on its usual patrol route, spiraled downward in a shower of sparks. The guards flinched. Marcus remained still. "Wind must be rough today," he murmured. The second drone lost altitude and crumpled to the ground. Then the third. Sensors along the wall flickered, dimmed and died. The guards' helmets buzzed with static. Marcus tilted his head sympathetically. "I know a bad day at work when I see one." "You're doing this," one guard whispered, stepping back. Me? Marcus widened his eyes in polite innocence. I haven't even touched anything. Technically true. He had triggered the cascade 16 seconds earlier, before the guards had finished shouting the word halt. An officer hurried out, breathless with irritation. What is going on out here? The guards pointed frantically. The officer stared at Marcus with the forced confidence of someone who'd rather be far away. Human, state your purpose. Marcus adjusted his jacket. I'd like to know why your men killed my wife. I'd like to know who ordered it. And then I'd like to have a calm, civilized discussion about consequences. The officer snorted. Threats are pointless. Threat? Marcus repeated softly. I'm being polite. He took one small step forward. The officer's hand twitched toward his holster. Marcus sighed. Don't, he said, tone unchanged. You'll regret it 3 different ways, none of which fit neatly on your report. But pride is a loud thing. The officer grabbed for his weapon. Too slow. Something invisible snapped through the air, a pressure shift like a sudden change in altitude, and the officer's holster sliced cleanly off his belt, falling in 2 neat pieces. He froze, breath catching in his throat. Marcus exhaled. See? Now we've all learned something. A siren wailed inside the garrison. More soldiers poured out, rifles raised, helmets locking down. Marcus scratched lightly at the back of his neck, unbothered. You're bringing a lot of people into this, he said. Not sure that's wise. The lieutenant from the plaza finally arrived, looking like a man who'd rather not be associated with anything happening. Seize him! 6 soldiers advanced. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, breathing in the thin, metallic air of Virith 4. When he opened them again, the world slowed into sharp focus. The first soldier lunged. Marcus shifted sideways with gentle precision, as if avoiding a friend carrying hot coffee. He brushed 2 fingers across the soldier's wrist, and the rifle clattered harmlessly to the ground. A second soldier swung a baton. Marcus stepped inside the arc, tapped his elbow, and sent him staggering backward. He moved without anger. Without haste. He looked almost tired. Across the courtyard, a group of civilian aliens watched with quiet dread. They'd heard stories, the kind whispered around dim fires and behind closed doors. Humans didn't lash out like cornered animals. Humans didn't roar or threaten. They simply acted. Efficiently. Precisely. Fatally if necessary. But Marcus never struck to kill. He only disarmed, redirected, disabled. One by one, soldiers found their weapons twisted out of reach or their balance stolen by impossibly gentle motions. It was efficiency so perfect it bordered on artistry. The lieutenant shouted orders louder, desperation bleeding into his voice. Use lethal force. Marcus winced. I was hoping we'd avoid that part. A soldier fired, a bright bolt tearing across the courtyard. Marcus dropped to one knee. The shot burned past him. He flicked a small, silver device from his jacket, barely larger than a coin, and squeezed it. A sudden, invisible wave hummed outward. Every rifle in the courtyard powered down at once with a defeated whine. The soldiers stared at their weapons in horror. Marcus shook the device. Prototype, he said cheerfully. Still working out the kinks. Also doubles as a bottle opener. The lieutenant's face drained of color. This is impossible. One human cannot. Can, Marcus interrupted softly. And we'll talk about the why in a moment. He stepped over the scattered weapons and walked straight into the garrison. Doors hissed open automatically. The building's sensors, confused by the shutdown wave, no longer recognized friend from foe. Every corridor buzzed with panicked murmurs as Marcus passed through. Soldiers backed away, unsure whether to salute him or run. He walked with purpose, gaze fixed ahead, searching for the one person who mattered in this moment. The officer who had given the order. In a dim command room, screens flickered with chaos. The commander, an older alien with crystalline markings along his temples, turned sharply when Marcus stepped inside. You, the commander hissed. You're the reason my systems are failing. Marcus offered a polite nod. Good afternoon. I have questions. You are not permitted in this facility. Marcus looked around at the malfunctioning screens. If it makes you feel better, your facility let me in. The commander bared his teeth. If you harm me, the Empire will retaliate. They already did, Marcus replied softly. When they killed her. For the first time, the commander hesitated. His eyes narrowed. You loved her that much? Marcus breathed once, steady and slow. Love is part of it. The other part is simpler. She trusted this galaxy enough to walk through it unarmed. And you punished her for existing. Silence thickened. Marcus stepped forward, voice low. So now I'm going to ask you something important. Something that determines how messy the next hour gets. The commander held still, afraid to answer. Tell me, Marcus whispered. Exactly what your men saw when they killed her. The commander swallowed. She activated something. A signal. Marcus' expression didn't change. But the quiet around him deepened to something sharp. A signal? He repeated. Yes, the commander stammered. We intercepted it. It went off-world. Marcus closed his eyes. 1 heartbeat. 2. When he opened them, the softness was gone. In its place was something ancient, calm, and dangerous. Then they're already coming, he murmured. The commander blinked. Who? Marcus looked up slowly, a faint, chilling smile appearing. My wife's backup plan. The colony's sky had always been an unimpressive gray, the kind that looked smudged by a bored painter. But now it darkened in a way no weather system had ever caused. Clouds bent inward, swirling around a single point high above the garrison. Every creature on Virith 4 felt the pressure change, a subtle, primal warning that something old and powerful was stepping into the world. Marcus stood in the command room beside the terrified commander, watching the vortex tighten. That signal your men intercepted, he said quietly. It wasn't a distress call. The commander braced himself on the console. Then, what was it? A doorbell. A low rumble shook the walls. Monitors cut in and out. The garrison's shield flickered like cheap neon. Soldiers poured into the hallways, shouting over each other, unsure whether to hide or fire or pray. Marcus walked past them with calm inevitability, making his way to the exterior balcony. Outside, the plaza had been swallowed by silence. Civilians crouched behind market stalls, clutching their children, whispering fragments of old stories. Stories they thought were exaggerations. Stories about humans who smiled through wars and planned for impossibilities. A sharp, electric sound cracked the air. Something tore through the sky, sleek, angular, and impossibly fast. Then another. Then a third. 3 black ships, small by fleet standards, but dense, compact, brimming with purpose. They dropped into formation above the garrison, like predators choosing a place to land their claws. The commander staggered onto the balcony. Only 3. He breathed, incredulous. We destroyed your woman. We triggered a human response. And they send only 3 ships. You misunderstand, Marcus replied. Humans don't send armies for family. They send specialists. The ships opened. Not with dramatic explosions or roaring drums. They simply unfolded, panels shifting with delicate precision, light spilling out like dawn through cracked shutters. From each vessel stepped a team of 5 armored humans, helmets sealed, movements synchronized with the kind of grace that unnerved even veteran Empire soldiers. They didn't march. They didn't posture. They walked like they were entering a grocery store with coupons. One of them lifted a hand in an easy wave. Marcus, you look awful. Long day. Marcus exhaled through his nose. You could say that. The commander gaped. Who are they? The response unit, Marcus said. Unofficial name. My wife hated it. Said it sounded too dramatic. The lead operative approached, visor retracting to reveal a woman with sharp eyes and a lopsided grin. Sorry for the delay, she said. We were in hyperspace holding a betting pool. I said you'd need us within 48 hours. Jones said you'd handle it alone. Jones called out from the back. Still think he could've. Marcus shook his head. She triggered the beacon? Yep, the operative said, her voice softening. We got her signal. You know what that means. Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. The commander found his courage in a burst of anger. This is ridiculous. We will not allow armed humans to. A sudden pop of displaced air echoed behind him. One operative appeared there without warning, boots silent on the metal floor, hands tucked behind his back like a polite tourist observing architecture. Allow. He repeated. That's adorable. The commander tumbled forward, reaching for his sidearm. Marcus caught his wrist gently before he could draw. Don't, he murmured. These people are worse than me. The operative nodded cheerfully. It's true. He's the nice one. Below, Empire soldiers scrambled into defensive formation, rifles pointed upward. The operatives didn't react. One even crouched to adjust his bootlaces, humming a tune entirely out of place with the tension choking the air. The commander raised his voice toward them. If you advance, we will retaliate with full force. A tall operative paused mid-step. Really? He asked politely. With what force? He nodded toward the soldiers' rifles. Those aren't powered. Your shields are down. Your comms are fried. And half your systems think it's next Tuesday. How? The commander whispered. All triggered by her beacon, Marcus said. It's not just a distress call. It's an override. A last resort she hoped she'd never need. The operative leader straightened, her expression shifting from playful to something colder. We can negotiate, Commander. We actually prefer it. Saves us the trouble. The commander clutched the railing. Your wife attacked my men. Marcus turned his head slowly. She approached your checkpoint unarmed. That's not an attack. That's trust. And you rewarded it with execution. She resisted. So would I, Marcus said. But the difference is, you wouldn't have lived long enough to write the report. The operative leader stepped beside him. Marcus, we need to see her body. His throat tightened for the first time since arriving. I know. They followed him through the plaza, civilians shrinking back as the operatives passed. Their movements carried a quiet, restrained lethality, the kind that didn't need to be demonstrated to be understood. When they reached the covered tarp, Marcus crouched first, lifting the edge. The operatives knelt with surprising reverence. Their voices dropped to whispers only humans could hear. She really did it, one murmured, touching her wrist console. She pressed the beacon. She marked her own death. Marcus closed his eyes. She wanted to give me a chance. No, the leader corrected softly. She wanted to give us a chance. A metallic chirp sounded in every operative's helmet. A holographic map flickered to life above their wrists, an Empire star chart with dozens of points of light blinking rapidly, then turning red. The commander, who had followed despite trembling, stared in disbelief. What are those? Locks, the leader said. Failsafes your Empire never detected. She helped plant them during her recon missions. Hidden in supply routes, carrier relays, trade shipments. Marcus whispered, her backup plan. The lights blinked again, each turning from red to a dangerous, pulsing white. The operatives exchanged glances. Marcus, the leader said carefully. That activation sequence wasn't supposed to happen yet. He stared at the map. What do you mean? She swallowed. Your wife didn't just call for help. She triggered every contingency protocol she ever wrote. Marcus felt something inside him shift, as if gravity itself had tilted. And what does that mean? He asked quietly. The leader met his eyes with a look that blended respect and fear. It means, she whispered, the entire Empire is about to shut down. The holographic map pulsed brighter, each white point beating like a distant, furious heart. Marcus stared at the constellation of lights his wife had built in secret. Years of missions, quiet nights, encrypted logs, every unnoticed detour she'd taken, all culminating here. The plaza seemed to shrink around him as the operatives formed a silent circle. Even the air felt suspended, as if waiting to see what he would become in the next breath. She knew the Empire might target her someday, the operative leader said quietly. So she laced their infrastructure with dormant keys, pressure sensors, relay parasites, code seeds tucked into their own planetary backups, all waiting. And the beacon woke them, another operative added. Marcus let the truth settle. She had always been precise, always planning 2 steps ahead. He'd teased her for it, told her to relax more, to trust the galaxy a little. The realization tightened something inside his chest. She didn't trust the galaxy, he murmured. She trusted us. A tremor shook the ground, soft at first, then growing. The garrison vibrated like something was clawing at its foundations. In the distance, the Empire's comm tower flickered, dying in a crackle of blue sparks. A soldier shouted for backup that never came, his voice thin against the roar of failing systems. The commander staggered backward. This is sabotage. You're destabilizing an entire sector. For one human woman. Not for one woman, the operative leader said, her tone almost gentle. For what killing her proves. Marcus turned to the commander, eyes steady. Humans don't escalate because we're angry. We escalate because we calculate the cost of letting something continue. The commander shook his head wildly. You cannot shut down worlds. She could, Marcus corrected. And she is. A tower collapsed in the distance, its fall thundering through the colony. Civilians cried out and rushed for shelter. Empire soldiers scrambled, shouting into dead comms, firing weapons that no longer charged. Across the plaza, floating transports dipped in midair, sputtered, and crashed like metallic birds forgetting how to fly. This isn't targeted, the commander whispered. This is systemic failure. It's mercy, Marcus replied, compared to what the Empire once planned for us. The commander stared at him, realization dawning too late. Your people wanted war. No, Marcus said softly. We wanted safety. Your people made war inevitable. A sudden flash lit the sky as one of the black ships deployed a grid of tiny drones, each the size of a coin, shimmering like silver dust. They dispersed across the colony, embedding themselves into walls, consoles, and armor. Their hum was low, patient, purposeful. The operative leader touched her earpiece. Phase 2 initiated. Marcus, they're syncing to her sequence. Her sequence? He echoed. Her codes, she clarified. Her logic. Her signature patterns. Every key she planted responds to her alone. Marcus swallowed. The grief he had kept buried under calm precision now tangled with something else, a quiet, fierce pride. She hadn't died powerless. She had died knowing she would reshape the galaxy with her absence. A deafening crack tore through the courtyard as the Empire's central generator exploded in a cascade of blue fire. A shockwave rippled outward. Marcus shielded his face as dust and shrapnel tore through the air. When the blast died down, the garrison's walls glowed with failing energy, trembling under their own weight. The commander fell to his knees. You'll destroy us all. No, Marcus said, stepping toward him. She built this system to collapse your empire without touching anyone who didn't deserve the fallout. Civilians. Refugees. Neutral species. They're untouched. He paused. Only your war machine is crumbling. The leader nodded. Her keys bypass anything not tagged as hostile infrastructure. She was surgical. Marcus closed his eyes. He could almost hear her voice, calm, steady, teasing him for ever doubting her brilliance. The ache in his chest sharpened. Losing her felt like losing an organ he'd never replace. But this moment, this unraveling of tyranny, felt like the only justice she would have accepted. A group of Empire soldiers rushed from a side corridor, weapons drawn manually since the power grid had died. Their hands trembled with fear. Marcus stepped forward before they reached the civilians cowering near the market stalls. Don't, he warned softly. One soldier fired a shot fueled by a backup cartridge. The bolt streaked toward him. Marcus shifted a fraction to the side. The bolt slammed into a metal pillar behind him, melting it halfway through. The operatives flanked him in a silent arc. Their movements were fluid, effortless, almost elegant. A second soldier lunged with a blade. Marcus caught his wrist, twisted, and disarmed him without breaking stride. "Go home," he told them. "Your empire is over. Don't die for men who lied to you." The soldiers hesitated. The operatives didn't raise their weapons. They didn't need to. The weight of inevitability pressed on everyone present. Slowly, one soldier dropped his blade. Another followed. Then the rest. The commander, still on the ground, stared at his crumbling world. "We underestimated you." "You underestimated her," Marcus corrected. The operative leader touched her wrist console. "Marcus, system tremors are spiking. Full network collapse is in motion." She triggered every thread. "This is going to spread far beyond this colony." "How far?" he asked. "A beat. All the way to the capital." Wind tore across the plaza as a second wave of drones dispersed into the sky, shooting upward like a storm of tiny stars. Marcus watched them disappear into the dark clouds she had summoned, clouds she would never see. He knelt beside her body again. His thumb brushed her knuckles, cold, small, familiar. "You always said one day your work would matter," he murmured. "You didn't tell me the day would be today." The operative leader knelt beside him. "We'll take her home. She deserves that." Marcus nodded slowly. "Home," he repeated, as if tasting the word. The ground trembled again. An alarm, one not belonging to the Empire, began to pulse from the operative ships. The leader glanced at her wrist. Her face tightened. "What is it?" Marcus asked. She hesitated. "We just intercepted a transmission from the Empire's outer rim." He rose to his feet. "Tell me." Her voice dropped to a whisper, weighted with dread. "They think her beacon was an act of war by your entire species." Marcus felt the universe narrow into a single line of consequence. "And what are they preparing?" he asked. The leader swallowed. "A retaliation fleet,"